In February 2016, Pokemon released an announcement trailer for their upcoming game, Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. It showed concept art, people working on the 3D models, and an ambitious release date that same year, 9 months later. When the game was first announced, I remember being wild with speculation, trying to figure out where the game would be set. I initially thought it was going to be set in Singapore, and we might get a Merlion Pokemon. As trailers got released, it was clear that wasn't the case. A point is, it's difficult to speculate on how good a game will be based on a single trailer. But let's go ahead and do that anyways. Pokemon Sun and Moon was fun. I remember the environment, the cool Pokemon, but it all kind of felt the same. Graphics improved in some areas, but what set it apart from other Pokemon games were things that it didn't have. It didn't have the same, area unlocking mechanics like HM Pokemon. You instead just called them at your convenience. And the way you interacted with Pokemon was different. You couldn't play with them like you did in X and Y. It was all streamlined. Berries aren't grown by hand, they just respawn on trees. And there's also no Mega Evolution until everything was done. I wasn't unaccustomed to disappointment from the mainline Pokemon games. X and Y had a pretty lackluster story, especially compared to Black and White. But I was still hopeful. Perhaps the transition to fully 3D just took a while, and now the Pokemon Company can show off their stuff, and then Sun and Moon comes out, and it's just the same game with a fresh coat of paint. It's got its own battle-specific gimmick, like Mega Evolutions with its Z moves. It had its miniature Pokemon interactions, like Pokemon Amii's little mini-screen thing, with the Pokemon Pelago. Poffins are now beans. Horde battles are now SOS battles. There's more micro-comparisons I can make, but the point is, they're different, but still the same. Not taking anything from the previous games, ensuring the new ones are unique. This is a video on Pokemon Legends Arceus, a game that currently only has one trailer. Pretty bare bones one at that. But I believe I can say a lot about the game, based on the history of the Pokemon Company. In the end, I am likely gonna enjoy the game, but I can't help thinking that this game isn't going to be that good because there might be a problem with how the games themselves are made. Okay, let me zoom out a bit. If I had picked up Pokemon Yellow as an adult right now, without knowing anything about Pokemon, I might find it enjoyable for a bit, but it would probably not keep my attention well. Bizarre how adult me might have less attention to give than child me. Though I never did finish Pokemon Yellow, did I? Point is, for someone just coming into the Pokemon franchise, any of these newer games, Sun and Moon, and Sword and Shield, and the various remakes that fall underneath them, these are all good entry points. They're flashy and fun, and they're easy to work with. Pokemon games are built to be accessible, and that's one of their strongest features. It's for everyone. Yes, that does end up alienating longtime fans. There is no but there. Long-term fans will get what they always get. A shift in the metagame for competitive, but no real big shakeups or differences. No challenge modes, nothing too hard that's built into the game. People famously have implemented hard modes like Nuzlocke in order to spice things up, but that's outside of the game. It's a meta game. Why not implement scaling levels, battle challenges, brutal difficulty spikes, if the player wants them? Why not allow players to choose the gaming experience they want via some sort of sliding scale of difficulty? Because every game afterward would have to have that. The danger of having all these weird, cool mechanics for Pokemon evolution is now every game afterwards has to have that. The danger of having Pokemon interactability is now that every game afterwards has to have that. The danger of customization is every game has to have that. Natures, IVs, free feeding, friendship, ribbons, Rotom, all these things are now integral to the game, and they have to be added into any future game. And honestly, a difficulty scaling for players that want that wouldn't be too hard to implement, but now that means all future games have to now cater to this. The reason why Pokemon keeps making new mainline games new, but the same, is so they don't have to keep adding and adding and adding mechanics to new games. It would end up becoming like a mishmash of Gigantamax, Z-Move, Megas, Pokemon stuff, because the Pokemon company themselves aren't equipped with the manpower to make such a game on time every 3 or so years. Because the company isn't here to make games. It's here to make Pokemon. But before I get into that, let's get into the fun stuff and get into the meat of the video and speculate about Pokemon Legends Arceus. So, we don't actually know a lot about Pokemon Legends Arceus. There's some videos breaking down the trailer in detail, but basically what we can speculate on is that it's going to be some sort of stealthy-ish, open-world Bugsnax style capture set in a wonderful world of ancient Sinnoh based on the island of Hokkaido, the land of the indigenous Ainu, and it's the setting of Golden Kamui. I don't think we'll be seeing these many man-tits in Legends Arceus. Satoru Noda, the author, is just like that. Based on the framing of the trailer, I'm guessing that you'll either start somewhere on Route 205 or Celestic City, seeing as that's one of the literal oldest cities in Diamond and Pearl. If that is true, then the majority of the trailer would be set in Route 210. If they are building the game by building for the starting area first, God, I hope they are, it'd be logical to show off that part in the trailer, seeing as that's what the players would encounter first, you know. Anyways, other parts of the trailer seem to be showing off Sand Gem Beach, maybe some of Florama Meadow, but that's confusing because there's lore about people finding it barren at first, but in the game you're the first people on Sinnoh. Oh, by the way, the insignia that the player has is likely what Team Galactic got their logo inspired from. Not a weird time shenanigans Giratina way around doing that, because Cyrus wanted a world without emotion. Does this look like the face of someone who does not feel? Okay, maybe that's a bad example. But I really don't think there's going to be any time shenanigans going on. I think that's a little absurdist and too convoluted for a Pokemon game, regardless of how modern that desk is. Anyways, Legends Arceus seems to be some sort of Let's Go Pikachu Eevee, but not as directed towards kids. And that's probably what we should expect from the game. A more open world, let's go set in Sinnoh. Slight changes to the base game of Diamond and Pearl with a fresh coat of paint. I suspect that the next trailers that show off how development is going will showcase other recognizable locations. Mechanics to help you catch Pokemon like Honey, showing off legendary Pokemon you may encounter like Azelf and Mesprit. The progress will likely not be based on 8 gym badges, but instead marked by battling especially strong Pokemon, kind of like how Totem battles were in Sun and Moon. Instead of the Elite Four, you're likely going to either battle the greatest trainers of the starting village, or maybe Arceus themselves, or both. This is all based on the fact that the game is likely going to be very bare minimums of a civilization, which will hopefully benefit development and allow them to polish other aspects of the game and avoid crunch. More on that later. What I suspect is that there won't be much for competitive or endgame for Legends. I like to think that these spin-offs like Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee are more separate from the mainline games as they seem. They're much more in line with the Pokemon Colosseums of the past. Different ways of playing the game, but not much that can be done with interacting with, like, the main game. Except for maybe, like, transferring a Pokemon or two. But hey, Pokemon Colosseum DX was fantastic. Why not have Wailord take up the entire goddamn arena? Like, what happened here? I mean, the GameCube had 3D graphics. We have pre-built 3D graphics now. Why not speculate that Legends will be just as good? Corporations are not your friends. The Pokemon Company heads don't care that the games aren't perfect, so long as they get your dollar. They do not cater to you, they cater to the likely most affluent of their fan base in an untapped market to avoid competition. All to increase the likelihood of a larger profit. That's business. They are making Pokemon Legends Arceus because it's essentially the right time to do so. They've shown they can remake old games with a twist like what they did with Let's Go. They've shown they can do open world with wild area like with Sword and Shield. There hasn't been a side game like this that doesn't strictly cater to kids since, arguably, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. The market's open and ready for Legends Arceus to come rolling in. Now all it's gonna take for it to cement itself in history as the next big Pokemon spin-off is for it to be good. And honestly, I don't have high hopes for that. The video game industry is plagued with the same pitfalls of capitalism seen everywhere else. To produce content after content in less time with less money to maximize profit. And for some smaller developers, this is soul-crushing because your paycheck is based on the teamwork of everyone doing their job the best they can so that the game you produce will make enough money to pay back any financial holes you dug while creating your game. But surely for the largest media franchise, the fourth best-selling video game franchise, they would have the financial capabilities to take the time to produce knockout games that play with a formula not unlike Mario, the best-selling video game franchise under the same parent company, Nintendo, right? But Pokemon isn't developed by Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development and their 900 or so employees. It's developed by Game Freak, a company with 159 people. 18% the amount that developed for Nintendo. Granted, Nintendo does produce a lot of different games, but there is a difference here. Nintendo EPD doesn't have the schedule. Yes, they make video games and have release dates and stuff, but not like Game Freak and Pokemon. Every 3 to 4 years, there is a new generation. And in between, there's usually a sequel and one remake. This timeline here is missing one game. The expansion passes for Sword and Shield. That's this generation's sequel. The Pokemon Company said it themselves, that this is a whole game's worth of content in these expansions. Which means if the 9th generation of Pokemon comes out in 2023, that'll be 8 consecutive years of new Pokemon games. So what? That's a game a year! Great! More games, more fun, right? Because there definitely isn't an issue with crunch in the video game industry, right? That putting games on a strict schedule ends up making the games good, right? And people think that the Pokemon games have been improving over time, right? Okay, at least staying the same amount of good, right? Well, maybe there is a problem. And yes, I know hiring more people would solve a lot of these issues. Crunch is relieved when the burden is held by more people. But you know what would be better than us trying to figure out the solution to the problems that these workers face? Giving them the power to change their job for the better by letting them unionize. Because no one knows better the problems that the work has than the workers themselves. Now, I couldn't find any specific information about the Japanese video game industry unions, but union membership over in Japan is at 17%. That's 6% above America's percentage of union membership. Granted, I don't know the full situation. I don't know if they actually have good management that listens to their workers, but if Japan's situation is anything like America's, then a more unionized workforce would guarantee that the workers can demand better working conditions for the jobs that they love. Because it's clear that everyone working for Game Freak and the Pokemon Company love what they're doing. But it's the fact that there simply isn't enough time for them to put everything they want into each new Pokemon game. So many times I'll be playing a new Pokemon game and come across a feature that just wasn't pushed to its full potential. Or the storylines felt more tacked on, like with Sword and Shields. But no! Gotta keep working. Gotta keep producing games. Gotta keep making Pokemon. Gotta keep making Pokemon. Gotta keep making Pokemon. Okay, that doesn't work out so well. Wait, hold on. Isn't Pokemon the largest media franchise ever? Like, bigger than Disney? And the keystone that allows them to keep making more content for that media franchise to build off of is the 4th best-selling video game franchise made with a team of 160 people or so in it? That's nuts, isn't it? All these plushies, all these anime characters, all these weird serving dishes. They're all based on a small team, sometimes one person's design. And I'm starting to wonder if the games aren't the driving force of profit for the Pokemon Company. What they're really doing is maintaining the most profitable entertainment brand of all time. By making more Pokemon in small batches every few years, the company has more cute things to market, more storylines to animate, more things to sell. It doesn't matter if the games are good, just that they function, and they showcase the new Pokemon as best they can. Think about it. What's the most exciting thing that comes to mind when you hear that a 9th generation of Pokemon is coming out? The Pokemon themselves. I'm reminded of those 80s cartoons where they were made to sell toys. Your He-Mans, your Voltrons. These kinds of shows are still around today. In fact, there's a good argument to be made that the majority of these programs marketed to children are there to sell merch. Because that's where the money is. And the remakes are there to recycle old games for newer consoles, banking on nostalgia, offering a new way to play these older games, some more stuff thrown in there, but it's all the same, isn't it? All these Pokemon games, well, fun, don't get me wrong, are all kind of just the same core game, with a different coat of paint each time, pushed onto a strict schedule to keep the capital a-flowing. But is that it? Is this all that Game Freak can do with Pokemon? Little innovations that don't transfer to new generations because you gotta be unique? Is this really the best that Pokemon can be? Sword and Shield is the 3rd best-selling Pokemon game. But does that mean it's good? Red and Blue are the best-selling Pokemon game, but does it mean that they're good either? What even constitutes a good Pokemon game? Well, at least to me, a good Pokemon game involves something unique, using the familiar in a new way, giving me a challenge that I have to cleverly use my Pokemon to beat the game with. Wait, hold on. Isn't that what Pokemon Legend Arceus seems to be building up to? Okay, as of recording early May, there's only one trailer for this game at the moment. But what's been shown is that this game may be radically different than previous games in a lot of ways. There's an open world, roaming Pokemon, freeform catching, the setting itself, and the fact that most of the land will be wild. There is a lot of potential here. The fact that this game is being developed after the Diamond and Pearl remakes that don't seem to be adding a whole bunch, and it's just a one-to-one recreation, and they seem to be focusing on making Legends Arceus, whose world is already developed and just needs to be mapped out, doesn't need most cities to be built, and can be populated with pre-made 3D Pokemon models. This game has the potential to be really good. Okay, well, it would be foolish to make grand sweeping statements claiming it will be good or bad. Like, an open world can be either full of things or sparse and barren. And it's way too soon in development to make that call. But it is tantalizing to look at this trailer and imagine the possibilities. The possibilities that it could be a lot better if Game Freak was allowed to unionize and take control of their work and release games on a healthy schedule. It could be so much more. Pokemon Legends Arceus could be an amazing game if the game developers were given the power to demand what they need to make the game as good as it can be. Okay, I also know that unionizing isn't a magic bullet and won't fix everything. But you know, maybe the Pokemon release timeline might be unhealthy. I do want to make clear, I think this is a lot more complicated than just throwing a union at the problem. The particular issue with the Pokemon Company is a lack of investment from higher-ups. The games make a lot of money, with very little effort, relatively speaking, from the staff due to it being a well-established franchise. My point is this. If the staff at Game Freak genuinely wants longer release schedules, more staff, better pay, better working conditions, things of that nature, then they need a union to back them up, to put the pressure on the CEOs that are making millions off of them, to force them to treat them better. And that can only happen if the CEOs don't hire a bunch of young and fresh developers who have an exploitable passion for the games, which can only happen if everyone knows about how grueling and soul-crushing modern game development is. And can only happen if a large enough percentage of developers are in a well-organized union who can speak on behalf of all game developers. And the developers have to refuse to get hired until working conditions improve. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work. But really, I believe that things can improve. The first step is being open about how things are at work, and imagining how things can be better. Unionizing is hard. I know. Oh man, I should do a video on unionizing. Speculation about Game Freak's working conditions is difficult. There isn't a lot of first-hand accounts of how things are looking behind the scenes. We have one rumor from 2019 that morale was at an all-time low when Bring Back the National Dex was trending. We need to be more open about working conditions. Regardless of how much you actually love your job, you should not have to be working 100 hours a week to follow your passion. It's about respect and making a healthy work environment. So, in the middle of editing this video, Adam Conover actually came out with a new episode of Factually, his podcast, which talked about the video game industry in North America. It has a lot of really good information. If you want to learn more about it, the link is in the description. So then, what if Game Freak does unionize? Demands better working conditions, more employees, and a slower release schedule? That'd mean that we, the gamers, wouldn't get as much Pokemon content. Oh no, whatever shall we do? Honestly, it's a good thing. With a slower release schedule and more people working on the games, the quality of the games should theoretically improve, all while not exploiting the game developers' passion for cheaper labor. Gee, I bet this wasn't the speculation you were expecting from the title of the video. But we should get used to the idea that in order for our media, or really anything that we buy, to be better and more ethical, that the workers who produce that product should be allowed to unionize. And yes, that will slow down production. Yes, that might be a minor inconvenience to you. But we should take pride in that and expect that. We should look at industries that demand products to be made as fast as possible as stupid. No one likes fast fashion. No one likes unsustainable food production. And no one likes reckless housing production, except for the uninformed consumer and those who profit from that system. I'm hoping that this video informs some people just a teensy bit, and with your help, we can fix the other half of that problem. Pokemon Legends Arceus and pretty much any new Pokemon game are likely going to stick to the same formula because there is no incentive to improve, beyond the simple changes from game to game. That being said, the potential that Legends Arceus has to break through the mold is something that can't be ignored. If Game Freak were able to implement some of the most common recent complaints about the games, like difficulty scaling or EXP share options, then this may be the game to introduce those features. Because the developers behind Pokemon want to make it as best they can. And while you don't need a union to have collective bargaining power to put profits on hold while you ask for more time to make your game, it certainly makes things easier. And shouldn't we want that for the people who make the games we love? They deserve it. And so do you, for that matter. Okay, I know that this video goes some fucking nuts places, but I'm glad you came on this journey with me. To be honest, I think that Pokemon Legends Arceus will be good. I will be buying it, and I will likely be enjoying it. The point I'm trying to make is that I'd enjoy it a lot more if I knew that the work that was being put into making the game was fair, and that everyone involved was rightfully compensated. And I don't think that's an unreasonable demand. If we want to live in a world that functions fairly, then the people who make everything we use should be treated fairly. That includes video games. I like to imagine what Pokemon Legends Arceus will be, but I like to imagine what it could be a lot more. Thanks for watching. I want to especially thank Christopher and Kyle for their support on my Patreon. Thank you! If you'd like to see videos like this early and see your name here in the credits, then go to patreon.com/Cosbean and look at all the tiers where you can support me.
Oh God, I'm so hungry. Leaf Motion, why do you do this to me? You work half the time. Okay, I'm done.